You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 68. On this episode of the show, we're giving you a State of the Union, a little bit about how our seasons have gone, a little bit of the waterfowl State of the Union as a whole, and we got some big news to talk about this week for the show in general. All right, welcome to the 68th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Palm. Joined, as always, by my co-host, Minivan Dan Harushka. What's up, Dan?
Not too much, my brother. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm recovering from my illness and, been on a good run of bad luck lately. But, yeah, I'm feeling good. And excited to be back on the podcast, get an episode out here. If you're new to the show, appreciate you checking us out. We've had a lot of people coming to the listeners group and telling us that they're new to the show. If you'd like to catch up on any of the past episodes, you can do that over at iTunes or wherever you, get your podcast content. We've been trying to get the show on as many platforms as possible. We've recently gone out to Spotify, I think is the newest one where you can go and check us out there. So all really cool stuff. And you can check us all, all of our other stuff is hpoutdoors.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those good spots. You can find us. If you want to communicate with the show, you can come over to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast Listeners Group on Facebook. That thing is growing by leaps and bounds. And, Dan and I were joking about just before we started recording that when I log into Facebook, I literally can't tell whether I'm in the HP group or if I'm on my regular news feed, because literally every single thing on my news feed are threads from the HP Outdoors listeners group. So tons of stuff going on in there, a little bit of debauchery, but not too bad in general. Pretty good convo over there for the most part.
Yeah, we have some good ladies and gents in there, and a lot of help. And you want to know what is super cool is, we'll talk about in a little bit the trip to Maine and going with guys from the listeners group, but there are trips being planned already for next year, and just guys that are in this group, they don't know each other. There's people from all over saying, yeah, I'd like to do that. I always want to go there. And they're saying, well, we'll check out some dates when the seasons come out and figure it out. So super cool. Like you said, crazy at times, but we're at about 98% of pure awesomeness in that group. So super cool. And like you said, it is growing by just exponentially currently. So that's cool. And that's good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah. And like you touched on, there's things that get discussed in that group that you literally won't find anywhere else without people just getting verbally assaulted. Talking about public hunting areas or just things like that you just don't see going anywhere else. So it's really cool and good to see. And I wish, frankly, I wish you'd see more, see that in more groups. And, it's getting to the point over there. I don't have the ability to be around social media as much as some guys do. I'm away from it for sometimes 6-8 hours a day. And, I come back and it's just like, threads of just 100+ comments, going on in there. And it's awesome because there's a lot of content to read, but it's overwhelming to some degree. So I've lost track to some extent, as to what all goes on in there, but we do try to monitor it, obviously to some degree. But anyway, check that out if you're on Facebook and you want to interact with us and, a bunch of the other listeners of the show. So for this week, Dan, we wanted to kind of give a State of the Union, kind of tabbing on with, the president's speech. We're recording this here on Thursday, February 1st. So, we're going to give a little bit of...
on Tuesday.
Say again?
I said the speech was on Tuesday.
Yeah, correct, right. So basically, we wanted to just sort of give a State of the Union as far as, for most places, duck season's now closed, obviously. So talk a little bit about how our seasons have gone, sort of, put a little bow on some of the things that we've had, going on here at the end of the season. We also kind of wanted to talk a little bit about just sort of the state of the waterfowl union in general. Give our kind of thoughts a little bit about some of the things that we've seen recently and just kind of talk about that a little bit. And then, we got some pretty big news that I think a lot of people will be pretty excited about. But I think we should wait till the end of the show, Dan, to announce that. Make people hang with us for a little while. What do you think?
Yeah, and we say that, but then we might put it in like 2 or 3 minutes, so then they have to listen to the whole thing. I like that. I like your plan.
All right, fair enough. So,
Aaron fast forwards. No.
Right. Anyway, it'll be worth the wait, I think, for a lot of you guys. So hang with us there to make sure you catch that. So let's go ahead and get into it a little bit. Talk to me about, you've had...
What do you want? We got some news. We got the main hunt. Got new stuff. Got all the SHOT Show and all that stuff.
Let's talk about some of the news and the current event stuff before we get into our personal stories for the season. So let's talk about some of that stuff.
All right. Man, I hate to start it off with this, but
don't.
We talk. No, don't do it. Okay. I'll start off with the other news article then.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina man, let's see here. He faces multiple charges for incidents involving harassment of duck hunters. So there are a couple fellas out in North Carolina. They were actually, it looks like they were scouting for, he's a guide, owns a hunting guide service. He's out scouting for future duck hunting trips. A guy brings another boat, crashes into his boat, somehow Jack Sparrows himself onto the other guy's boat and starts punching him in the face, calling, throwing out racial slurs, telling him he's going to crush his skull in the lake. So ends up with the guy pulls his shotgun out, the hunter does, and makes him get back in his own boat. The guy ends up getting 2 felonies, 11 misdemeanors, and I don't even know what to say about that. That just is out of this world.
Yeah, this story is absurd, and it just seems to me that there's got to be more to the story, right?
Right.
Because, if you're scouting, you're not even firing a gun. What's prompting this? And then what kind of boat is this other guy in? Was he in a duck hunting boat, or was he in like a freaking ski boat? And why has he got that out in the winter? What... Some of the context here seems like there might be some history between these people.
Yeah.
But
that's what I was I don't know, just punched him twice. No, yeah, there's no really
there's not a lot of detail in the story with that stuff.
No,
but I can tell you right now, you got some brass if you're going to smash your boat into somebody else and then get on their boat and try, start swinging on them. Obviously it's a bad deal what went down, but that guy's fortunate that he didn't get killed.
Yep.
He's lucky he wasn't shot by somebody. It's just unfortunate, but hey, I'm glad that there are hunter harassment laws that protect, because I've heard really horrible stories about this, not just for waterfowlers, but for just deer hunters too. So I'm glad that there are laws that protect us in that fashion, but what do you do, man? You find yourself in that situation.
The scary part about this is that the hunter said, "I'm just glad I didn't have my 11-year-old son with me. He was going to go hunting with me that day, and he didn't." And that is just a scary thought. So this guy gets felony charges, assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, Class E felonies, carry a minimum prison sentence of 15 and 31 months. So he's going away for around 4 years just for that, without the 11 misdemeanors
I don't know what North Carolina law says, but in Virginia, you can use lethal force when faced with lethal force, right? So
Right.
this guy's being charged with, using a deadly weapon with intent to kill. I don't know how, again, I don't know the law in North Carolina, but I believe that if that kind of thing would have happened in Virginia and then that guy shot him and killed him, I don't think he would have faced charges for that.
Probably not. Yeah, if you run your boat into some, I'm guessing that the deadly weapon would be his boat, or else
It seems
the
like
way
it.
this guy was acting, he probably would have shot them instead of punching him in the face. But
Yeah, I don't know. Wow.
pretty
that's
nuts.
Wild. Yeah. And
Anyway,
it's
stay
funny.
vigilant out there.
And I'll tell you this, like, I am the most confrontational adverse person when it comes to hunting. Like, I've got no problem if someone wants to like set up on top of me, I'll pick my stuff up and leave. Like, because my morning's already ruined if that kind of situation's happening. So like, I'm not going to sit there just like out of spite, right?
Right.
I don't like hunting close to property lines. Like, I don't like situations where I'm going to have to deal with some crap that, that I'm not out, I'm not out there to deal with that kind of stuff. I deal with that crap all the time during the work week. I don't need that, right? When I'm hunting.
Right.
But I know a lot of guys don't, they don't feel that way. And they're like, well, it's my, it's public land, whatever, so they'll dig in and it escalates things. I'm like, I'm just so adverse to that type of stuff. Like, I just can't imagine myself ever in a situation where it would escalate to that. But my gosh, if it did, like, that would just be the worst. That's just the worst.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And it makes me think like, okay, were they hunting that morning close to this guy, near his house, doing something, shooting a bunch, whatever, something to irritate him, spraying pellets on his house, something. And then they were out scouting, quote unquote, after the hunt. And then he confronted them. Was that the type of deal that went down? I don't know. But it just seems like there's something.
Yeah, there's more to the story. And he's a guide, so I mean, maybe he's taking up spots or, has leases in the area and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's more to it. But anyway, it's a crazy story.
Yeah.
And it's still not super hot down there, so you're still talking cold weather, running boats into each other, James Bond style. Just, ugh.
Yeah, not a good deal.
Nope.
All right, what else you got?
Unfortunately, out of Mississippi, a pontoon boat capsizes on a duck hunting trip, and 2 adults and a child passed away from that.
Mm-hmm.
So
one guy actually survived that. There was 4 total, and the one adult survived.
Yeah. So it flipped and trapped him underneath.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't even know what to say. And the thing is, like, what's going on here? They flip a pontoon boat.
Yeah, that seems.
The one I want to get a pontoon boat and set it up as a duck blind that I could just drive out wherever and have it ready. And I never once, unless it was an old pontoon boat and something like one of the floats snapped off of it or something, like, what I would never think. I don't know. I just feel ultra safe in that, and that's not you get complacent, I guess. The
pontoon that flipped was set up as a blind, so they were getting off of one boat into another. It tells me, my read on that was that they're using the term pontoon boat pretty liberally there.
Okay.
Because, we grew up on a lake. Like, I've been in a million pontoon boats. Like, you couldn't possibly flip it over if you tried. But I've seen some smaller ones that are used as like service rafts and stuff around marinas and things that you could definitely flip pretty easily if you.
Yeah, if you're talking like a 4x8 piece of plywood with some blue barrels underneath it, that's calling that a pontoon.
Yeah, it's probably something similar to that. I don't think it's like an 18-foot, sunsetter with a grill on the front deck, right? I don't think that's what we're dealing with here. It can't be. I can't imagine that.
Well, no. That's what. That's what I was assuming as I was reading that. But
yeah, but it's a terrible story. Anybody with kids, my goodness, like, just reading that,
it's awful.
Just it's really hard to hear. And
and that wasn't. I mean, there's been. I didn't print out the other ones, but there's been another 2 or 3 at least.
Yeah, there was
where people passed away. So
a couple guys down here in Virginia. I want to say it was like the James River or something. I can't remember exactly, but they were like in a 16-foot boat. Most people think 16 foot's pretty good. Yeah, just didn't. Big body of water wasn't enough.
I tell you what, I've seen more videos this year of now. There's some difference between boats. If you're in like some of these 21, deep V boats, 21-foot deep V boats, and going slow through ice, there's a big difference between that and some of these flat bottoms that are flying through rivers that have someone had broke the ice before them, and their propeller can't even stay in the water because it's hitting chunks. Like that makes me cringe. And just be safe, listeners out there.
I can tell you right now, I hunted a couple situations this year where the ice was thick and it was like, it was not comfortable. And I was, it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, is this really safe? Like, and we just kind of took it easy. But I mean, it was like literally we broke ice for a long time, to get out to like a little pot that was open. And, I actually, oddly enough, sometimes going back in through, where the ice was previously broken is worse because the ice breaks and it folds on top of each other and freezes. So it's actually like thicker sometimes right through there. And I was legitimately concerned that it might get so thick that we can't get back. And there was no wind. There wasn't like a lot of the things that would have worked in our against us that would have made it more dangerous. And plus the water wasn't. I shouldn't say it wasn't deep, but I mean, like, I don't think it would have been over my head if I fell in, but I had a life jacket on the whole time, regardless. But it was definitely dicey. So I'm not going to say that I'm not guilty of like pushing the limits a little bit. This was this was the first time I was like, it took, I was uncomfortable for a while. And it got better the more I, saw that we could manage what we were dealing with, but it wasn't far off from being like, yeah, we're not doing this today.
Yeah.
But yeah, you hate seeing it, but unfortunately every year you see it. And, I think people just sometimes forget that hunting is inherently dangerous, whether you're talking about falls from tree stands or accidental discharge. We saw some of that going around the internet. Somebody got shot in like a shot in the foot or something, I think it was. I saw floating
There's
around.
A kid got shot in right behind his tricep.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The shotgun.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just, always got to keep that in mind for sure. But what else you got?
That was it for as far as just news stories, which were kind of crazy and sad. But SHOT Show just came out. Mm-hmm. I guess, was there anything that caught your eye there?
I can't say that there was anything waterfowl related. Obviously, I think the Garmin archery site was pretty cool. That is crazy. That was one of the big ticket items, obviously, that came out of SHOT. Benelli was making some noise out there with some of the stuff they got going on.
They got a left-handed SBE3 now, so a lot of people, I don't know if it's a lot, but there's enough that are wanting that, and now it's an option. So yeah, pretty cool. Good for them. So it's a good move. Yeah. Sitka waders finally. Yeah, I mean, finally showed up. That's kind of that was the biggest thing for me probably that came out of that, and the fact that they're doing a lifestyle line. I like. Yeah. I like wearing companies that know how to make good clothing that are good for the outdoors. I like wearing them, like First Light makes great just casual clothes, shirts, shorts, things like that I can wear all year long. I'm really glad to see Sitka getting into the game.
The waders is, you know, it's going to be interesting to see because obviously they're expensive as you know, anything on the market, obviously. And, you know, it'll just be interesting to see durability and how they hold up. And, you know, all the reviews so far have been great. But, yeah, sounds like they're going to really stand behind them and they can be repaired and all that kind of stuff. So it's, you know, what's that saying about buy once, cry once, or whatever it is? You know,
yep.
This is one
buy once, cry once.
Yeah, this is one of those types of things that it's like, okay, if I'm buying $300 waders every so often and I can buy one pair for whatever these things cost and they're going to last me however long, like, is it worth it? So we'll see. And oddly enough, my waders are probably kicking the can this year. So I'm going to be in the market this summer likely. So we'll see.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh. I don't. There is one thing. The marsh knee pads, which in pictures after you use them a couple times, they don't look as bad. But when they're brand new, they have a weird color to them, which I thought was a little different. But the rest of it looks pretty sweet. And some of the, like you said, if Sitka's standing behind them, and you know they have a new heat treatment to apply the boots to the waders, so if there is an issue, they can just swap them out and get you fixed up. So, but there's more to come on that side of things. But yeah, that was a big one. That was a long time coming. It seems like I don't know what the next big story on Facebook's going to be, because that was about a 3-year running.
Oh man,
is it or isn't it?
Yeah, that secret was kept well. I mean, that, you know, the people that were in the know held that one tight.
Yeah. Kudos.
You know, here's the one point I'll bring up about this. And again, we know how controversial Sitka gear is for some people for whatever reason. But what I will say is, when you get companies like, I mean, we can all agree, waders are a huge weak spot in the waterfowler's arsenal. I mean, literally, you show me a pair of waders and I'll show you a guy that's had like them leak on the first time they've hunted. You know, I don't care. I literally don't care what product you say. Sims, Cabela's, LL Bean, Rogers, whoever. Everyone's got a story about a bad experience with a pair of waders, right? It just happens. They're constantly under stress. We're asking them to do a lot. It's just a really tough thing to do well, right? But the more companies you see get into the space, and the more companies that put the money behind research and development, like the Sitkas of the world and the First Lights of the world and things like that, that make this technical, whatever, hunting equipment gear that push the envelope of technology and development, it's kind of like the whole rising tides raises all boats, right? So like if Sitka pushes the envelope on the waders and there's things about these that are different, maybe you won't ever spend the money to buy them, but maybe the company that you do like to buy will up their game and they will, you know, surge forward in other areas and you leverage some of the ideas that we're now seeing in the market. I mean, you see it in every product, right? I mean, anytime this happens, other companies do something similar or try to achieve a similar end through a different mean. But hopefully, if this wader is strong and provides, you know, a different level of effectiveness, maybe you will see some of that similar technology creep into other products that will provide better products for all. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep. Without a doubt. You keep pushing and keep pushing, you end up, but I think that there needs to be another PSA about breathable waders. And I mean, you're still, and just, I don't know how to explain it, because it really, it's a game changer. It really is. And no matter the temperature, and that's what a lot of people aren't understanding. It doesn't matter what temperature you're hunting in. You can stay warm with breathable waders. Like, it's not below 20 degree wader. Like it that needs to be X-nayed. You know, that it's just, being up in Maine, I could not believe Actually, I could believe it from wearing them for a season and a half, but I had no hesitation wearing breathable waders in, it was negative 13 when we got out of the truck and negative 50 wind chill. And the only person that complained at all was the one guy in neoprene waders, because his waders froze and he couldn't climb over the rocks, or it just, took him too long to get where he wanted to go. So, if you think that they will not keep you warm, get that out of your head, because they will, and you are able to move, and you are able to go in warm weather and fish with them. Like, they're just so much more agile, and I think that needed to be said again.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. If you don't layer properly under a breathable wader, they will not keep you warm in the wintertime. Just right. Like you can't go out in your neoprene waders with mesh shorts underneath when it's cold outside and stay warm. Just not gonna, right? I mean, you will need to layer more under a breathable wader. Having said that, you can layer to where you don't lose mobility, where when you layer under neoprene waders, you already lose mobility to some extent by the fact that you've got a 5 mil or whatever neoprene layer to start, right? So right. You're already making compromises on your mobility, on the mobility piece of it right there, in your comfort level, in my opinion. So being able to utilize some of the new technologies as far as layering, I mean, it's not like the old days where you have to just get a cotton pair of long johns, a pair of blue jeans, and then you throw on your waders. You can still do that if you want, but that's not going to be the most comfortable way to approach it, again, in my opinion. The merino wool is an amazing technology that we all know how much you love, Dan. You don't need to buy, I mean, I personally wear the Sitka, I think the gradient pant, I think, is the thick fleece backed pants is a layer piece. And then I wear, sometimes I'll wear merino, but sometimes I'll wear Under Armour cold gear too as well. It just kind of depends. But, you can wear Drake, you can wear Orvis, you can wear Sims, whatever, wader liners, I mean, thick fleece, heavy fleece pants that insulate well. It does the job without question. It does the job. And at this point, you've seen so many companies, and this kind of actually hits what I was talking about with the Sitka waders. You've seen so many companies now introducing lines of breathable waders because they're seeing the market shift, right? Mm-hmm. So don't be shocked if eventually, like, the majority of the offering is breathable style. I mean, look at the Cabela's catalog. They used to offer all kinds of neoprene options. They don't have as many now, but they've got several different breathable options now. So, yep. You see the change. It's for a reason, right? I mean, it's not like hunters all over the country are just making bad decisions because they feel like it, right? I mean, they're using what they like and what works. So I think that's something that, a lot of guys are really hesitant to, and I get it because I was there too, right? I mean, we talked about it on the show a lot. Like we were both hesitant about that. But it's just one of those things.
I held out longer. I held out longer.
Yeah, you love just leaky crotch waders and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where that is an advance in gear that is worth looking into.
Going back to my love of merino, Sitka is coming out with 3 different levels of merino now, which last time we talked to Saw Beer on here, he said that they felt that where they were at really was a good position where it wasn't too heavy to where it would make you sweat more. It wasn't too light to, let you chill or anything like that. So if they go from having the perfect amount to going to splitting it up 3 different ways, light, medium, and a heavy. So they must know something we don't know. Maybe a future conversation there needs to be had, just because I am addicted to merino and I do love it. Well, and I think
I think that they're kind of, I think they're seeing what some of their competition is doing, and
there you go.
Getting in line. I mean, again. First Light has done that for a while. They offer different levels and weights based on, your situation. I mean, merino wool in general is a great fabric. The insulating properties of it, the ability to remain, scent free, so like it doesn't stink. All
Yeah,
of those
antibacterial qualities.
right, yeah, all of those things are just awesome qualities that are built into the fabric, regardless of the weight. Now that you can alter that, you know, the merino that I have now, I wear as soon as it's cold enough for me to wear an underlayer. That's on my skin, and I wear it all the way through the year. Now, you know, if I can get a little bit heavier layer and, you know, lose another layer somewhere in the system, maybe that's the way to go. But I think you're seeing them respond to the success that First Light has had in other companies. Maybe I don't follow, you know, every company out there, but I know First Light has been doing that. And, you know, they don't really have a specific waterfowl target, you know, per se, but some of their base layers, I guess, would apply. I'm sure some guys do wear them. But, you know, I think it's a good move. I mean, who doesn't want more choice, right? I mean, that's, as a hunter, that's what you want, you know, more options. I mean, it costs companies money to buy, you know, to have all these different SKUs, right? You know, all these different product lines cost money for them to build and inventory and all that kind of stuff. So it's an investment on their part, and that's what we want. You know, we want these companies pushing each other to get the best products out there. I mean, we stand the benefit from that. So I love it. And I hope, you know, I'd love to see, you know, how they advance it and how other companies, I would love to see more companies like First Light and some of the like get into a more waterfowl centric line. You know, I think it, you know, for obviously reasons already stated, would be great, because you've got, you know, on the big game side, I mean, as much as, you know, you've got your Sitka core, you've got guys that are the same way about KUIU and First Light and, you know, whatever, these companies that do similar type, you know, technical style gear where they do all the work on it to figure out what's going to be best. You know, all of that stuff can be moved over to the waterfowl world, you know.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So hopefully we see some of that.
Well, let me ask you, did you get anything for Christmas?
I got some camera gear stuff for Christmas. I don't really think I got any waterfowl related. I mean, I bought myself some waterfowl gear for Christmas, you know, but like,
yep.
I will say the best deal that I got, and I still haven't used any of these yet, but Rogers was running a lot of rebates on ammo around Christmas, and they had an offering for Remington shells that I can't remember what the price was paid, but after rebate, it was basically a whole case of shells, 250 shells for like $69 or something like that after the rebate.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it. I bought it just to try them. And, I mean, at the cost per box, you know, 10 boxes for $70, you can't hardly beat that. So we'll see how they perform.
Yeah, it's a good breakdown.
Haven't shot them at all yet, but I just, you know, the price was too attractive to pass up. So did that. And, yeah, that was probably about it, really. What about you? I told my wife, I was like, I don't want any presents. If I get anything, I want to get a new shotgun before I go to Maine. And then I kept telling my daughters, I was like, are you guys going to get Daddy a shotgun for Christmas? So then every time we would talk about presents, they would say, I'm getting you a shotgun. So it kind of like built up to Christmas. And Aaron's like, I didn't buy you a shotgun, so if you want to go buy one, go and buy one. So new A300 in the bag. Just a solid piece, man. Just a solid piece. And that's going to, I had a 3901, and just, you know, the action and everything it's another level. And for the price point, you know, if you're looking for a gun around the $600 to $800 region, I honestly don't think that you can beat that gun where it's at. Like, that is a solid piece right there. Yep. I've shot one since the first year that they came out, and I've had no issues with it. I love that gun. And for me, it came down to the Franke Affinity and that gun. And I almost bought an Affinity, but the one I was looking at had a defect on it, and they wouldn't discount the price at all. So I said, okay, I'm not buying it. Turned around and bought the Beretta. never looked back. And just everything that I've seen with that gun personally, people that I know that have them, I think it's a fantastic value for the price and the performance. So again,
and that's what you read too. I mean, I listened to you a lot on that, and held your gun. I don't know if I ever shot it, but just everything you said about it was great. And then reading everything, I mean, it's rated the best value on everything. And then you pick one up and you're like, all right, I can deal with this. And then you start shooting it, and it just does. It is what you expect it to be, and you really can't find many bad things said about that gun anywhere.
Yeah, that's
and like you said.
It is hard to find stuff that bad things that people say about that. Interesting.
Yeah. So, and then I mean, the step up. If you step up to the A400, you're talking an extra $1,000, and currently with remodeling going on, it wasn't viable for me. So, I sat there and I am not disappointed one bit. I held Vandy Camp was up there in Maine with us, had an A400. They feel pretty similar. The A400 has a few things better. The anti-rust, their water shield on it, and obviously some upgrades. But for what you're paying, the A300 is where it's at, and I'm really happy about that. It was a good Christmas for Mini Van Dan.
Yeah. I mean, again, I shotguns for me, they need two main things. They need to be reliable. Let me rephrase this. A waterfowl shotgun needs to have two main things. It needs to be reliable, and it needs to be able to take a beating. Like, thrown around, dropped in snow, brackish water, not cleaned every time. And, I don't want to pull it out of the, usually I just sit it in the corner, sprayed with break free on it. I don't want to pull it out and see rust on it, none of that crap. And that's exactly what I get with my A300. So there are probably other guns in the price point that are just as good. I can't say that I have used them, so I can't speak to it, but I know that one is a really, really good value.
Mm-hmm. And I did get the synthetic, so I will be getting a little work done on it, I think. I don't know, once I pick a color out and get her rust proofed.
Yeah.
So, but
cool.
that's kind of pricey too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing cheap about that.
But I think I'd rather have some, just a solid color or maybe a worn look than some of the other camos that I just don't like. So
you don't want it to be Realtree Edge.
Hey, you have Realtree pattern on yours. It looks good. Looks great.
I got the Max 4, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know what they have on there now.
It's Max 5.
Is it the
now.
Edge?
It's Max 5.
Max 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so
yep. I don't mind it.
That's where I'm at.
I think it looks fine. Yeah. I actually like Max 4. I don't like the Max 5 quite as much. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because everything I've had that was Realtree was Max 4, so I don't have a lot of Max 5, so it just kind of looks weird when I see it. Whatever.
Right.
But I actually thought, the Shadow Grass, the Mossy Oak, and the Max 5, I always thought those patterns looked pretty good, I mean, at least to my eye. I don't know scientifically if they're worth a damn, but, again, as we've talked about, it looks good to my eye, so, no issues
brown.
with it. It's definitely not brown, but, yeah. I've already told you this, but just because of my time away from social media during the day and stuff, I can't keep up with all the comments and stuff that are going on in the group, but I know I see them, the little highlights I get. I see a lot of the brown talk that's going on in there, and I'm not even sure
so much.
I'm not even sure what's being said about it, but I know it's being.
There's
I know
so much.
There's so much going on. Yeah. Anyway,
there's a lot going on in that group. A lot. It's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about hunts, man. What have we been doing?
Well, our duck season went out in December, so no duck hunting in Pennsylvania, but I can talk about my trip to Maine a little bit. if you want.
Yeah, do it.
All right, so let's start this out. Flying, besides the cancellations and delays, just flying with a firearm in general. I was very nervous about doing it. I've never done it before. The trips I've made are close enough to where I can drive, down with you or Maryland, whatever. Mm-hmm. Flying, very simple. Erie was very nice, and Portland, Maine, the people were very nice. So, my gun was in the case. Any hole that you have has to have a lock on it. I kept the key to the lock on a piece of paracord around my neck, and pretty much you go up to the gate, unlock it, show them a thing. You have to sign it. They sign it. Make sure it's unloaded, and they put the piece of paper in there. And TSA does a little quick check to make sure you can't open it anywhere, and you're good to go. And that was literally it. So I had a little anxiety going into flying, just because that's who I am, I guess. But it was really, really simple. So going back to the flights and everything, supposed to leave on Thursday. The bomb cyclone was coming in, so they let me move up to Wednesday. Wednesday, delay, cancel. They said, well, we'll book you for Thursday. And I was like, why am I getting booked for Thursday when you said it was going to be too bad, so you booked me for Wednesday to beat the storm? I don't know. They say they're flying in there. So we book it, and before I even get home, it was canceled. So then Friday night was the next flight that was going to Maine. Leave Friday night, and it was the worst plane trip I've ever had in my life. And it was from Erie to Philadelphia. I get on this plane, it's literally like it had to be 120 degrees on a plane. And I was like, are you guys gonna like fix this issue? And they're like, oh yeah, it'll be fine, by the time we get going and stuff. No, it was like a hairdryer blew on me for an hour and a half. Oh. And it was, it's one of the planes, 2 seats on one side and one on the other. So they're like, there's going to be some turbulence. And I was like, there's going to be a barf bag coming out here pretty soon. Like, it was to that point. And, there's women up in front of me with, pulling their hair back and just trying to get air, but the air's so freaking hot that you just couldn't get away from it. I'm literally down to like a t-shirt, which I'm expecting it to get to Maine at like negative 20 degrees, negative 15 degrees. So I had like merino on and some... I
was going to say, are you wearing a merino tee? Because if not, that thing is probably merino. Stinking.
Merino, core heavyweight, and a jacket. So I'm down to...
Did you have merino underoos on as well?
I actually had my pants on because I tried to pack light and not like a ton of stuff. So
underoos, like underwear.
Yeah, long.
You had
boxers, merino boxers, and long underwear, merino.
Okay. So you're essentially merino head to toe.
Head to toe merino, sweating down, like it's rolling down my back, and then I don't know if the pilot overshot the airport, but he starts like just maple leafing like a goose coming into the airport, dude. Seriously. So we do this like 4 times, like straight 90s, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like if this guy pulls one more of these, I'm gonna vomit. Like I was to that point. So he pulls one more, I grab the barf bag, and then we start our descent and start going in and dropping. So now I'm to the point I'm holding like all my clothes, walking off the plane, sweating, just red face, flush, walk out, and in Philadelphia, walk down. I don't know. It wasn't too far, but as I get to the next gate, we're already boarding. So get off that plane where I'm about to throw up and get right back on another plane up to Portland. It was a little bigger of a plane, so we got up in the air nice and smooth. Got up there, no issues whatsoever. Dubay had a little, sticky note with my name on it for when I landed, and they were all excited. And Joe and Van de Kamp were tuned up a little bit, so they were yelling down through
for those that don't know. For those that don't know, Joe's your brother, Right.
Joe's my brother. He flew up from Philly, which I was supposed to be on that flight. So Joe got up there Wednesday. I didn't get there till Friday night. Vandekamp got up there Wednesday. Joe actually flew into Rhode Island. So Ryan Dubé and Vandekamp had to drive 3 hours to pick up Joe so he could get there Wednesday. He had to change it to that. So they drove 3 hours one way to get him. So 6-hour round trip Wednesday.
Oh, jeez.
And so Thursday they ended up going to the ocean. And Joe's like, Dan, I hope you realize you might be coming up here just to play cards and drink a couple beers. And I was like, well, if that's the case, everything's bought already, so we'll do it. And and they're sending me videos of the ocean, and I mean, it's just so cold. Like, you can't even. It takes your breath away to try and talk to make a video. So I'm sitting here, just waiting to board a plane. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, are we gonna do this or what? And so I get up there Friday. We go to the LL Bean flagship store up there, which they have one shelf of shotgun shells, and they're like, yeah, it's the end of the year. We don't have much. There's one. We ended up shooting, I think they were Remingtons, 3-inch BBs. There were no 2s. Most of the stuff was lead shot, and there was just very, very limited ammo. So we do that. We get our licenses, get back to Dubé's about, I want to say 1:30 maybe. Got 2 hours of sleep. Got up, drove an hour and a half to the ocean, and we got there as we weren't going to do anything in the dark, so we got there as the sun's coming up, and we could actually make a game plan and see what the ocean was doing. So we wake up at Dubé's house, negative 27 degrees. Get to the ocean, it's negative 13, and I'm Marquis there and Lily's there, and Marquis comes up and he's like, Dan, nice to finally meet you, and we shake hands. And he had just gotten dressed, so he was outside for about 3 or 4 minutes. When he shook my hand, it felt like I was shaking an ice cube, like a block of ice. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what are we doing? And then Joe goes, Dan, don't let him fool you. Like, he's walking around out there right now. He's like, that guy was in a t-shirt yesterday, and it was like negative 30 wind chill. So, okay, so now we know where we're at, and we see birds flying around, scoters and longtails and everything. It was just absolutely beautiful. So, they're like, we're going to pull over here, unload stuff, and we'll get in the canoes and head out. So, Lily's buddy is a game warden, and he stayed in an elevated position the entire time that we were out. And, afterwards he's like, you boys are crazy. It's wicked cold out here. And, it was fun. So anyway, we load up, carry these. This is one thing that I didn't realize. They're like, all right, so here's a game plan. We're going to go out to these rocks, climb up over, pull the canoes up, make a makeshift blind with the canoes, shoot some ducks, and we're out by 10:30, 11 o'clock. And I was like, well, why 10:30 or 11? And Marquis said, well, the tide is about a 20-foot change. So, going down to Eastern Shore with you, and I know where you hunt, you have what, maybe a 5-foot
not even
tide
that.
change?
3 feet probably.
3 to 5 foot somewhere. Yeah. So this outcrop is probably, I want to say 25 feet out of the water. And he's like, yeah, where we're sitting right now is going to be underwater come noon. And I was like, there's no way. Like, as I'm thinking this is just crazy. Like, that is a huge, huge change. And can only imagine like living or making a living, with all the lobster pods and everything, dealing with something like that. But so we get down, kind of had a shuttle service. So Dubé didn't hunt. It was me, Joe, and Vandekamp, and then Marquis and Lily were there. So it was me and Marquis went across first. He pretty much paddled the entire way, got me over there. And he's like, yeah, just, peek up over the rocks, see what we're dealing with. So I did that. There's birds everywhere as Ryan And then Scott went back and got, I don't know if he got Joe or David, doesn't matter, but got everyone over there. And just just super cool. So you peek up over it, there's these dark clouds coming in, birds flying everywhere. And then what was super cool, well, the bay that we went across was half frozen. So I didn't think the ocean could really freeze around here. I didn't think it was that cold enough, but it was getting cold enough. So there was sea smoke out there, and it was just awesome looking. Like, it really was just a beautiful painting, picturesque type morning. So we get up over the rocks. There's some birds there, and just birds flying everywhere. Mallards, pretty much everything. Black ducks. There were the scoters we saw, eiders. One thing that was super cool, we saw probably 4 or 5 loons up there. Apparently they're all over the place. And a lot of golden eyes. So we get up there and flip the canoes. And where we were at, there was a bridge coming through this bay, and some heavy wind coming through there and pushing birds actually on the water down through that. So we actually had some shooting in between, like off the edge of these rocks where they'd get flushed up, and we'd shoot them as they're coming out. And Marquis would go out by himself in the canoe and pick these birds up and pretty much bring it right back into the rocks to where we could pull them in and pull the canoe back up onto the rocks. So it was pretty intense, and high fives going. Everyone that flew up, so myself, Joe, and Van de Kamp all shot an eider. I shot a drake, and that is going to get mounted. It's actually at Tim Schloss right now, who was a guest on our podcast. And that was it. We got back nice and safe, and like I said, having a game warden watch you the entire time, it was very, very comforting to have him there. He said the emergency services were pretty limited, but just to have his knowledge and anything that he had at his disposal was very comforting in that situation. So yeah. I mean, it was to the point I had probably the longest beard I've ever had in my life was up there. So I had a neck gaiter on, and it got to the point where I don't know if it was, I think it was Lily. He's like, Dan, you need to pull that up or you're going home with a black nose. He's like, your face is getting pretty red there, bud. So I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I think you need to cover up. So I pulled it up, and then all the moisture just started making my eyelashes freeze together like in an instant. So it was pretty intense. It was cold. It was really cold, but it was fun, and I would do it again.
Yeah, that's the thing about planning hunts, man, is just, the weather is just so out of your control. And, weather this year has been, it's impacted people all over the country, and the fact that you even had open water to deal with was kind of, is fortunate, because most of the country is frozen. So, you guys went through a lot on that, and unfortunately got cut a little short because of that. But, just like we talk about so much on this show, when we go down to Maryland, it's not like we ever go there because we just stack birds on top of birds. We go there for a lot of other reasons. And, I think a lot of those reasons are the kind of things that made that hunt for you, going up there and, making new friends and, all that kind of stuff. And, we had talked about doing that last year, and this year, unfortunately, my schedule just didn't allow me to go. But I was kind of bummed out. That eider is a pretty bird, and it's going to look awesome on the wall for sure. So really cool that you got up there. And I know we've talked about hopefully next year we can maybe branch out a little more and get out and hunt with some of the listeners of the show and experience different things and just kind of do a little bit more of that type of stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I mean, I would like to hunt different states and just see how people do it, and how it differs and the similarities to what we do. And it was crazy. And I'm just thinking about the whole trip overall, and it was just super cool. Just a beautiful, beautiful place. And I've always wanted to go up to, New England area, and living in Pennsylvania, you think that, just run right up there. It's not too far, but for some reason I've never done it. And I've been to Massachusetts, but not any higher than that. So it was good to get up there and see it, even though it was frozen. Most of the main part where they launch from usually was just frozen. And you should see it, like some of these areas from the tide going in and out, like where they usually launch, there were like, it looked like a 3-cushion couch. Like that's how big it was. Like these chunks of ice just stacked up on each other. Like it was incredible. And just, the power and everything going on underneath that ice, which is pretty scary. So, I don't know, just a lot of sights, some big bays with the big, lobster boats and all the lobster pods everywhere, and just the cool little houses and shops. And, we tried to hit those up, and it was a good experience. It was a Maine experience. That's what they always say. And, I do want to thank those guys for having myself up there and a couple other listeners, and, the Dubé family, Ryan and Jen, for opening up your house to us, and especially cool. my brother and Vandekamp, who I expected more things to be broken, but by the time I got there was only one lampshade, I think. So, but yeah, a great family and their kids running around, and it was just really cool. Everything about it. It just worked out, besides the shortened time for myself, everyone else was up there on time and really got to enjoy it. So it was a great trip.
So I've got a little story that I'm going to add to your trip. I guess it must have been Friday when you got up there. You sent me a video, and I'm sitting at the dinner table, or around the table. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It was while you were up there. But I was sitting at the table with my wife and my son, and you sent me this video, and I think like the preview image is, Vandekamp. So I hit play, and about 3 seconds into the video, he just drops the loudest F-bomb you ever want to hear. And my 6-year-old son's just sitting there, and it's like, I was sort of ready for it, but like, just, it's just one of those things where you're just never truly ready. So he drops it, and I'm like, whoa, 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 like, just trying to make some sound to muffle.
Just cover it.
Yeah. Oh. And my boy's like, what? And I'm like, nothing, so yeah, when my son drops his first F-bomb at school, tip of the cap to you there, Mr. Vandekamp.
You're making a call this week.
Yeah.
No, but it was, there's a lot of good food, clean fun. It was just a great trip. So thanks again to those guys. And I did a little write-up. What'd you think about my write-up?
I thought it was good, man.
Blog.
Yeah, that's
it was like my first go at it.
Yeah, I've always liked kind of, I keep a journal about hunts and things, and I've always liked putting pen to paper after, an experience like that, and just trying to, capture what's in your mind and put it onto paper. It's kind of the same. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, I've always found that a good book is better than a good movie, because the book allows you to, in your mind, formulate what the characters look like and how it felt to be in that thing, and trying to convey that from a real life experience onto paper. I've always found it to be really, an enjoyable experience, and just, writing things that, draw emotion from you and stuff can be very therapeutic, I think. And, it's a way to relive the hunt in another fashion, and, you got some great photography from that, you wrote about it. It's just, it's cool. I hopefully, I think we tried to do a blog for a while and you never wanted to post anything. So I think I bagged it, but, yeah, good stuff, man.
I did. I did slack. I slacked there.
Yeah.
So
anyway, well, cool, man. Good hunt. Just because we're getting so long in time right now, I'm going to kind of truncate a little bit of the stuff that I was going to say. Maybe save it for another time. But, weather, like I said, was such a big deal, and dealing with ice this year has been unlike a year that I've dealt with in recent memory. And, I had one really, really good duck hunt this year down in Richmond with some new guys that I got to hunt with this year for the first time. And we were hunting a private reservoir that a landowner has like access to, and he actually owns a piece that goes out to an island. So we could hunt out on this island, and the birds were there was just tons of ducks there. And we got there and we broke a hole open, and we're, running the trolling motor in the hole to kind of keep the water open and stuff. And it got to the point where it was so cold, probably 2/3 of our long lines were literally frozen into the ice. And, we were killing a few ducks, but they weren't really working that great. I mean, half our things sitting in frozen water. I mean, it just didn't look real good. But I'm telling you, we put out the Lucky Duck HD, and it was like the light switch turned on, man. They were just, whatever it was that day, that was the ticket. And we had mallards, ringnecks, a couple mergansers flying around. But we ended up shooting a few buffleheads too, primarily ringnecks though. We shot a bunch of ringnecks that day, and we ended up shooting a 6-man limit of ducks out there. And two mergansers on top of that. So it was a really, really great hunt. A lot of shooting, a lot of action. And, it was just one of those days where the motion was the ticket that day. And, just a really, really fun hunt. But the ice, man, this year has been really difficult to deal with. I mean, the Potomac River at one point was almost froze all the way across. And there were pockets where you would see just several thousand ducks just in these little pockets that were open, and they would not fly all day. Canvasbacks, everything. I was able to kill a really beautiful redhead that I'm going to put on the wall. You
did?
Yeah, I did. I sent you a picture of that.
Oh, you did. Yes, you did.
But just sitting there, and you come back to the ramp and you can see them in that little pocket, just all huddled up. And they're not going anywhere because there's nowhere for them to go. There's few holes, to go to. So it was one of those things where we need the weather to push them down. And then we need that weather to just stay just north of us where it doesn't lock all our water up. So it's been really, really challenging. And, once the water opened up, the ducks dispersed, and the hunting wasn't as good as what you'd hope it was. I mean, it was okay, but if you're targeting divers, they were a little more dispersed. And then I don't know if some of them kind of moved on or they were just kind of stale, but we just didn't, we just never got on them like you thought, you would, given the conditions. So it was a little disappointing in that regard, but learned some new tactics. And you still got all that good stuff.
And you got a couple weeks left of goose season. We go out the 24th.
I think we're out on the 15th here.
Yeah, I'm very close to the Ohio line, so Ohio's in, and then for about, let's see, how far from the line to 79? Probably.
Oh boy, I don't know.
20 miles.
Yeah, maybe
somewhere 7 from Linesville to Ohio, and then just thinking out to Sagertown or somewhere. Maybe 20, somewhere around 20. A stretch, and then from Erie down to about Greenville. So this little area is out for the year, and we just have hundreds of geese piling into our normal spots, and It's just frustrating. I don't know why they can't do the whole state, same type of deal. So I need to get over and get on some birds before the end of the year. I need another good honker beat down, just to hold me over. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I've got like one weekend left, because the following weekend I'm leaving town and I got coaching my son's basketball team and stuff. So I pretty much got one more day probably left to give it a shot, and that'll be it for me. And actually what I'll be doing until spring turkey season starts is I'll be picking up my bow, because here we can hunt urban doe until,
oh my gosh,
I can shoot doe in the county that I live in until April 5th. So I'm going to put a deer or two in the freezer, and then I'll turn my attention to spring turkey, and I'm going to try to do some competition archery stuff. I want to start shooting some 3D and some, field stuff maybe this spring and summer. And if that goes well and I like it, maybe looking at doing some indoor next winter if I get the time. But
what do you used to have a Matthews, right? Is that what you're shooting? Bowtech.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you ever have a Matthews?
No, never had a Matthews.
Never had a Matthews.
Nope. Always had a Bowtech. I'd take a Matthews,
still shooting
though.
Bowtech.
What's that?
I'm still shooting Bowtech.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my hunting bow is old. I bought that thing in 2006. It's a Bowtech Tribute, and it shoots a 440 grain arrow, 300 feet per second. I don't need.
Gets her done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Are you gonna get a comp bow?
Possibly. I'm going to shoot what I have now. I'm not going to do what I typically do and just throw a bunch of money at stuff that I'll end up not using. So I'm going to shoot what I got now and just see what the environment is around the tournaments and the camaraderie. And part of the reason I want to do it too is to get my son involved. I got him a bow for Christmas, so I want to get him shooting in some of these little junior 10-meter targets and get him involved in some of that stuff. But yeah, if I like it and I want to try to be more competitive, maybe I'll look at getting some sort of competition set up. I think for deer hunting and the hunting I do, my Bowtech that I have now is sufficient. I mean, it's old, but it does exactly what I need it to do, and that's that. So we'll see how it goes. But I like archery. I don't deer hunt near as much as I used to, but I still and always have enjoyed shooting my bow. I think one of the things that I'm missing most right now is, like you, I've been an athlete my whole life. This came up in the frickin' outdoor group this week, but for a long time in my life, I had something that I was competitive in. And I think I'm really just missing like that competitive feel right now. I get it a little bit with my son, but he's just so young. I mean, he's 6, so I'm not super competitive with his stuff. For him, it's just like, having fun, and I don't care about the score or whatever, but like, I miss the feel of competition, the pressure of trying to beat the person beside you, that kind of thing. I'm missing that a little bit. So, I'm hoping that maybe competitive archery might maybe scratch that itch a little bit.
There you go.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And your boy is just wanting to pick up his bow all the time too, which is awesome. Yep,
he asks me all the time if we can go shoot his bow, and it's been cold here, so unfortunately we haven't got out to do it yet. But he's interested, and he definitely wants to do it. So we're gonna do it here as soon as the weather breaks.
Get after it. Yep. That's awesome. Yep. So awesome.
So
good. So what else are you thinking?
That's about it, man. I mean, we didn't get into as much State of the Union stuff as I thought we might, but I just don't want to belabor this episode for too super long. For a reason that maybe is now an appropriate time to bring up. What do you think?
Throw it out there.
Okay. So, we've talked about, if you've followed the show for a while, we've gone through some pretty good undulations as far as release dates and schedules. We've gone from bi-weekly to weekly to monthly to quarterly to biannually to whatever. And, we get a lot of pushback about the release schedule. Some lighthearted and joking, others not, it seems sometimes. And, we've talked about how much time it takes to do this. And, with both of us having families and all that kind of stuff, it is a significant time. It's 11:10 p.m. right now, and I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning getting ready for work. So, this isn't, an easy thing for us to do. And we do appreciate everyone listening, and we're glad that people enjoy the show, and we're really proud of the community that we've built and everything. And, I think maybe in the last 2 weeks, we've kind of hit a crossroads where we're sort of like, what are we doing here? Is this something that we want to continue to build and kind of, see where this goes? Or, is it just going to be a hobby forever and kind of just do it, whenever our time permits and all this kind of stuff? But it'll hopefully make a lot of people happy that we have decided to, to commit ourselves to what we've got going here and press forward with a little more aggressive approach. So we are going to be doing our absolute best to go back to a weekly release. And when I say weekly, I say our best. The caveat here will be, I travel for work sometimes, so there are just times when it just can't happen because I'm not here or Dan's not here, whatever. But we're making moves to allow, both of us to be involved in the editing process to cut down some of the levy for me, and giving, Dan some more stuff to record, so we're making some moves to hopefully lessen the burden on ourselves and be able to deliver a more regular schedule. So weekly is the target, and that's we are committed to that. So hopefully that will make people happy. I will tell you now, just public service announcements for everyone in the HP group. If we go back to a weekly release and there's one comment about when the next episode is going to come out, automatic block. You are getting blocked. I'm just telling you now that's going to stop.
The band hammer.
Yep. It's coming out because, again, this is not, it's not going to be easy for us, right? I mean, it's basically, more time that we don't have enough of trying to figure out how to make this work, but we're committed to it. We enjoy the show. We enjoy the interaction. Hopefully you guys enjoy the show. We're going to get back into having more guests on the show, more interviews with industry personnel, hopefully some really useful content that you guys will enjoy. And, we're going to hit the road, kind of pound the pavement. We're going to look for some hopeful partnerships that will, maybe sponsor the show, hopefully help us out with some of the financial burden, things like that. So if you're listening to the show and you enjoyed the program and you're interested in that, or somebody that might be interested in that, let us know. Social media is the best way to get a hold of us for anything, period. If you send us an email, Dan won't check it. I'll check it periodically. Don't always have a chance to respond. So if you wanted a response to a question or anything in any kind of timely fashion, hit us on Facebook, Instagram, something like that.
Yep.
What do you think, Dan? Did I cover that appropriately enough?
Well said, man. Well said. And it's funny because we were talking before we started recording, and you're telling me everything you got going on between, karate and basketball and everything. I'm like, man, you got a lot going on. And then I think about everything I got going on, and it is going to be a challenge to get these in, especially with, traveling schedules and stuff like that. So we're going to put a push on it, put our best foot forward here. And, like you said, try and get some more guests on the show. And, we have a lot of people to bring on, and we have a lot of great content lined up. So I'm excited about it, and I know you're excited about it. So I think this will make our listeners excited and polish up that band hammer, because I know once this comes out, the first thing you're going to hear is when is the next episode coming out. I know they'll be jacking us there. So, well,
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a kangaroo court in the group, and I will select a jury, and when there's an offense that I believe needs to be reviewed, I'll present it to them, and I'll allow them to, define the punishment, whether it be outright ban, just a period of timeout, a verbal warning. It's a group of the people, right? I mean,
we probably could think about adding another admin on there because it's starting to.
It gets a little intense, but the funny thing is, we've been trying to get. I mean, we're recording this now. It's going to come out Monday. We've been trying to record for like a week and a half, but I had a frozen water pipe break in my basement. So I had to like tear out half my basement. Still got that going on. I got sick last week. I had the flu. Couldn't sit upright. And then, this week I blew a truck tire, and it was my wife's birthday. So I had to like juggle all that kind of stuff. So it like literally it's just one thing after the other. It's, never fails. But again, this is something we want to do. When we talked about starting this, however long ago we did, that there was a period of time where we had, the biggest names in the industry on this show. And I think there's a reason why our program has grown to the level it has, even on our release schedule that we're on now, where they're literally, to quote some people, they're winning wars between episodes that we release. If you go into the iTunes rankings, we're in the top 50 all the time, and we're in the top 20 regularly. So that's an attestament to all the listeners and the people that download. So I will say this too. We're switching to weekly releases in like the worst time of the year. Usually the spring and right after duck season is some of the lowest download numbers we see, because people just kind of, and I think a lot of people just exhale from ducks, and you transition to whatever else you do and your family and all that kind of stuff. So, we're going to challenge you guys to keep hanging with us, keep downloading, keep showing those, that strong support that we have. And, we'll keep trying to put the content out, as regularly as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So
good stuff, man. My man.
I think that pretty much wraps it up, and is a good spot for us to call it a night.
Yes, sir.
All right, hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. As we mentioned, get ready. We're loading up here for a more regular weekly release, and if you've not caught up on all the past episodes, now's your chance. Get caught up, because you're only going to get further behind at this point. So iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places out there that you can get great podcast content. You can find our show. If you haven't, head over to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating review. And until next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.